So the resin I use for this project is going to be Be Resin. I use two parts, part A and B, equal parts of A and B. The colors, the reason I didn't show it this time is because these are a blend of a lot of colors. So this is leftover resin that I had from an ocean project that I did. I'll leave a little link up top to that project, but these colors were originally blue. I added a ton of other colors to kind of makeshift these colors. And so I added like black and some of the purples that I had. If you can tell from the side of the cup at the bottom right hand side of the screen, it's like a darker blue. That's because I just mixed a ton of colors to get this purple. What I'm doing for this project specifically, I wanted to have one of those geode pieces that had different layers or just like different depths of rings around it. And I didn't really know how to do it. Like, this was my very first time doing this type of method to resin. And so I was trying to decide if I was going to do two colors at the bottom, or if I was going to try to do the three colors that I had all at the bottom and just keep building on that way. But as you can tell, I decided just to do the two colors, the darker purple and then the this, I guess, lighter purple, and I'll let all of that come in. That'll be my base. It works out really well actually that I did it this way, because when I used a different color and I did another ring, it kind of looked like I had more than just those two colors as my base. Nonetheless, I am just now trying to fill out the bottom of the mold with the two colors that I chose. So now I'm trying to test out these makeshift colors that I made to see how it's going to look against the bottom layer. And one thing that I'll say about just resin in general, make sure that you are using less than 10% of any kind of pigments to the resin itself. That helps it set better. Also, whenever I'm pouring smaller rings or lines like this, I usually always use this little cup that I'm using. It's just from Dollar Tree. It's I think 20 in a pack for $1 or something like that. I find it easier to control the pour when you use that. A lot of my materials come from Dollar Tree just because it's really close to my house and it's really cheap, right? And so I'll buy those little cups. I use a plastic measuring cup to actually stir my resin, and the popsicle sticks come from there as well. I always whenever I first started using resin, since I lived in an apartment, I always put all the newspaper down on my counter, and then I would put the whatever mold that I'm using on a cardboard box, as you see this set up here. The main reason for doing that is so that I can move the piece after it's done, because sometimes I'll work on more than one pieces, and so I want to be able to move this when it's not really set up as of yet and not affect it too much. And so this really works for me. And if you don't have a lot of space and you're trying to record, you don't have a lot of room to have all of your projects or to move the cameras around for good angles, this is a really good technique here. So now I've decided, obviously I've like poured the colors, all the colors that I have, so I try to use every little bit of resin that I have, that I've made. Another tip I'll give you guys, buy little trinket molds, mainly because if you do a project, there's no real way to measure the exact amount that you need. You'll always have a little bit left over. So just by having little trinket resin molds, you can make other pieces. You can start building layers on other pieces. I have a few that I use. Like this time I'll use the goddess body mold, and you'll see me pouring that here shortly. But I found that to be super helpful because I don't want to waste resin. I try to pour what I think that I need, but that's just been, you know, a tip that I use to not waste resin and to make more pieces out of what I did pour. So the rest of the video, I'm just trying to make sure that I use like as much resin as possible, making sure that you see the different colors. And I liked how everything was one. Like I didn't want to blow them into each other at all, so I didn't. I tried not to, at least. But yeah, so I just tried to keep the circle rings from blending a little bit. That's why I'm just trying to pour like more of that second purple down so that you can still see that ring. Part of this video that I didn't record is going to be me placing the amethyst stones around the inner circle. So I did one and it sank to the bottom right away. Then I waited maybe like an hour or so and I put another one on top of the one that sank to the bottom, and that one sank. So I actually had to wait a very long time. Like I waited probably 4 or 5 hours, and right before I went to bed I was like, oh my god, I didn't put those in there. But it was like the perfect timing because like the resin wasn't that sticky, had a little bit of stick left, and so then they didn't fall to the bottom, they just stayed up top. Yeah, so guys, I will leave a link to the resin that I use, Be Resin. I talk about this in almost every one of my videos. It's the only resin that I use. I think it's amazing. It's so clear, super easy to use, and it's a 1-to-1 ratio. If you're just starting out with resin, I highly recommend doing any type of resin with 1-to-1 ratio. It's just easier that way. But this is the mold that I was talking about earlier. It's just the goddess mold. This mold I actually also got from Be Resin. She has a ton of different molds that you can use. I usually try to shop at like the same store so that I can buy in bulk. So most of my stuff come from like this mold specifically. The tray that I'm doing, that one came from Amazon. I get all of my supplies from Dollar Tree or Amazon, and then I get my resin and some of my molds from Be Resin. I go to Michael's more often than I should, and so I get a lot of things like glitter and things like that from Michael's, just because I like when I can see. I like when I can see it, because then I know it's like the right color that I'm kind of looking for. But I'll tell you one thing, you can never have enough glitter, so even if you don't need it, if you find a pack, just get it, because at some point you'll need it. Yeah, so those are like the main 4 places that I use personally to get all the things that I need from resin. Yeah, but this is all that I did from this project. Please leave me a comment below if you have any questions, and here's the demolding video.